You're live.
Hey guys, it's Monday morning and we're on Facebook. We will be live on ETC shortly. Want to remind you that tomorrow is the day that you vote in a runoff election. Often runoff elections don't get a lot of energy and people are not showing up at the polls normally, but this election seems to be bringing in a lot of folks, and I hope that you will get out and vote. Since I live in Cherokee County now, I don't have anything that I really know is going on down there, but I know there's some stuff going on up here in the mountains, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about the importance of an election, the importance of opening your voice to what you think needs to happen. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, but the first thing we're going to do today, and I'm so excited about it, and y'all won't get to see it on Facebook, but you will get to see it on ETC. Yesterday at church, Ball Ground First Baptist has been opened back up. I think we're into our 5th week of opening back up, and the numbers are getting better. People are coming, and I love that, and I keep telling y'all, please get back to church. Please get back to church. But yesterday, our church honored the pastor's son, and when our pastor stepped up there to talk about his son and what an amazing kid he was, I'm sitting there, and my eye makeup is running down my face. And I'm thinking how amazing it is to be a child of a dad, as cool as his dad is, as great as his mom is, but for this dad to stand there and praise this son, it was a boo-hoo moment. So we're going to share a little bit of how we honored Michael yesterday, and we're going to, maybe you might get a song in, I don't know. And then we're going to take a commercial break, and then we're going to come and we're going to visit, and we're going to talk about your career choices, your life, the things that you've done that set you up for the next step in life. And you know, I've done a lot of stuff, and I've set myself up kind of along the way. I think I have the jobs I love the most now. We all start with kind of a career, and then we move to this, and we move to this, and we move to this. And then you end up, if God's plan is perfect, you end up exactly where you want to be. And God's plan is perfect. So we're going to see how life plays out. And sometimes it starts with a career that you love, and then it moves to another career you love, and then you change paths completely. And now, I mean, I'm doing television and real estate. For 38 years, I was in the trucking business, and I didn't like any of it. I hated the pressure. I hated worrying about the drivers. I hated the idea that a tractor and trailer could kill a whole family in 2 seconds if there was a horrific accident. I hated so much stuff about it, but it was the way we made a living. So I think it's important that as you go through life, you finally choose to do something you love. And we're going to talk about that with our guest today in just a few minutes. I'm on the opposite side, and the lights are really on me. So if I look old and gray and wrinkled, it's not my fault, it's the lighting. So we'll see. But here we go. We're about to go live on ETC, and I hope you will join us. And if you go to Ball Ground First Baptist, quit watching on live Facebook and come back and be with us. Yay! We're back. We're here. Y'all, it's Monday morning. I have moved myself around a little bit, and the lights are really, really in my eyes, and it's really crazy because I can't see the monitor. So today's going to be an interesting day. I don't know if I've blown it for myself or not, but today is Monday. I've been up since 3:30 this morning. I've got a whole lot going through my mind. My mind is just rolling, thinking about the things that are going on in life, the things that we are approaching as an election is coming up. We have a presidential election coming up. We have runoff elections tomorrow. I have been kind of sitting back watching and wondering what's going to happen with everybody. Where are we headed? What's the next step we take? And I hope that the next step will be for you to get out and vote. If you didn't already early vote, I hope that you will get out tomorrow and vote. A lot of the areas that we serve, from Ball Ground to Turtletown, are having runoff elections, and it's important that you speak your piece. Now today, I'm going to speak my piece about getting back in church, because Ball Ground First Baptist has been back open for about 5 weeks in real time. And I love it. And every Sunday I count heads and I look at who's there. And we were up some numbers yesterday, and I was excited about that. We also had a little bit of a kind of a mini ceremony to honor a very special young man in our church. It's the pastor's son, Michael Brown. Very, very special young man. And when I listened to his dad talk about him, I thought, oh my goodness, what if everybody could have a kid that's as good as Michael is? Well, you know, He's kind of a little part of both parents. He's pretty good because he has some pretty amazing parents. And I watched them as they both had tears running down their cheeks as their child was honored. And I said, it's a nice feeling to be a part of things like that. So I want to share a little bit of that with y'all. And then we're going to take a commercial break. And we're going to visit with a gentleman who had a long career in public service. And when you think about what we're doing to law enforcement today, I think about the days that I had a restaurant. And during the time I had the restaurant, we always had like a meat and three for $3.85, and then we had a ribeye steak for $5.95. Can y'all imagine that today? And as the troopers would come in to eat, I would always call the waitress back there and say, we're going to comp their meal, you're not going to charge them. And they'd say, how can you keep doing that? And I've had so many troopers look me straight in the eye and say, you can't feed us for free. And I'd say, you see that sign on the door? It says Cherie's Iron Skillet. Yeah, I can feed you for free if I want to. There was a time in America that we honored our military. We honored our first responders. We honored those who serve us. And today, we've seen so many things in the media where restaurants are doing mean things to police officers. They're refusing to serve them. They're certainly not giving them a meal. And I don't understand that. So we're going to talk to a man whose career was in service. And when you wear that Georgia State Patrol uniform, you have certain standards. Now, I know firsthand what the pay of a Georgia State Patrol officer is. Their pay is not why they do the job, trust me. It's not the pay. It's the good feeling they get of helping other people. It's the good feeling they get of getting to that wreck scene and finding out that there were no fatalities. It's getting to that wreck scene and having to deal with a horrific time that you have to go tell a parent that their child was killed. But you do it because that's your job and you love your job. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about the next step of a career and where that may be going. So today's going to be a day to kind of look back and to look ahead, and I hope that you'll stay with us. But right now, we're going to take this little bit of time, and I just want to honor Michael Brown, a very, very special young man. And I think he's pretty special because he has pretty awesome parents. So sit back and just watch. This is a little bit of Ball Ground First Baptist, and I would love for y'all to come and visit. Again, services are at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, and we are back to church with social distancing. A lot of people wear masks. Some people don't, but we do the social distancing, and everybody is feeling safe and secure. We don't even hand out the flyers in the morning telling us what the program is. It's just doing it very differently, but doing it and feeling good about being back in church. So I'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes. Now, for you guys that are with us on Facebook, we want to, and we're going to do a song at Ball Ground First Baptist, and then we're going to do the little presentation with Michael. I want you to get out and get back in your churches. If you're going back to church, you don't have to go hug on people, and you don't have to go over there and spread cooties or whatever. Just get back in church. And I know I took a picture last Sunday. I took 3 or 4, and then I took some more yesterday, and it looked better to have more people in there because we are feeling better about being in church. And I think that we all need that. I think it's a very important time. I think that we need to be gathering together, but you don't have to smear the cooties, You just get in your seat, do your thing, pick a pew that's not crowded, and enjoy the service. And enjoy the smiles from people, because that's one of the things that you do get to do. Even though you can't go up and hug them and shake hands and all that kind of stuff, you can at least smile at people. And a lot of people are coming in with a mask on and then taking the mask off during service. And that's awesome, because then you do get to see those precious smiles. So Kevin, if you want to come up and join me, we're going to just watch this for a few minutes, and you and I'll just hang out here and probably do a little bit on Facebook while we're doing what we're doing on ETC. So, yay! Welcome. There's a couple of my cards.
Thank you.
Yes. And for you guys joining us on Facebook, I don't know if you recognize him or not. He may have given you a speeding ticket at some point in your life. He may have taken you to jail at some point in your life. Now, tell me a little bit, because we'll get all this when we go back to ETC, but tell me a little bit about your career starting out as a young man. Michael Brown is 18 years old. He's starting out by going to Kennesaw College. At 18, did you know where you were headed in life?
Well, no, not really. When I was in high school, the Marine Corps had showed up and was talking to young men and women. Mm-hmm. And my dad was retired Navy, was a Master Chief. So it had kind of appealed to me some until
Did he stay long enough to get the retirement from the military?
he did.
Yeah.
22 years.
Yeah.
So when the Marine recruiter showed up, I thought, well, you know, those uniforms look really good.
Let me tell you about a 17-year-old girl when Vietnam was going up. A Marine, nothing looks any better than a Marine in dress blues. There is nothing any prettier than a man in dress blues.
Now, I could say that I did it because I researched it and the Marine Corps was the best and the toughest, but the truth at 18 was that uniform got girls, and I
Yes.
thought, well, that's the best way to go.
That's right.
But
That's right.
I had considered that, and a cousin of mine, also same age as me, we went in together. We decided to go in together. And I went to Paris Island, which is where Marines are made. And
That is basically hell on earth, I understand.
it's unlike anything
Yes, yes.
that you can describe.
Yes.
If you can make it through Paris Island, you can
Yes.
make it through anywhere.
Yes, yes. And once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yes. After Paris Island, I went to Millington. Well, before Millington, I went to Camp Lejeune. Every Marine is a basic rifleman.
I think I still have a Camp Lejeune t-shirt from Vietnam era.
And Lejeune is where they do infantry training. So I went through my basic infantry training there. Now my job duty was working on Cobra helicopters.
Wow.
So after basic infantry, I went to Millington, Memphis, which that
Did
basic.
you have mechanic in your background? Was there something mechanical?
There he is. My father, when he was in the Navy, he worked on aircraft. So Dad kind of worked on everything. He was a master of a lot of things. So as a kid, I worked a lot with that and had an interest in it. So after going to Millington and going through that, I ended up at Camp Pendleton, where I worked on Cobras, Huey helicopters, what we call Huey slicks or Huey transports, Huey gunships, about everything that the Marine Corps had within their arsenal. And then I went to several other places from there, Okinawa, Japan.
So you were basically getting paid and trained at the same time. That's pretty
Yes,
cool.
yes. After going to Okinawa, then I come back stateside. I've been to Lejeune, 29 Palms, numerous bases that the Marine Corps had throughout the state. Overseas has been Okinawa is the only place I've been overseas. So.
And when you left the Marine Corps, did you use that knowledge of working on aircraft to get a job in the civil?
Well, that you're talking about changes of life. I did that, enjoyed that. When I got off of active duty, I did 2 years active duty, 4 reserve, and then 2 years inactive. So when I got off of active duty, I had a vast, huge interest in law enforcement. So I started working on trying to get a job in law enforcement, and went to work for Cherokee County Sheriff's Office as a deputy with Cherokee County.
What year was that?
That was in 80, let me think, I think about 89.
Was Roger Garrison your sheriff?
No, it was John Say
Okay.
that was a sheriff.
I remember him.
Bo Ballard had just went out, and
Yeah.
John Say had come in.
Yeah. So we're gonna start over in just a minute when we get to ETC in just a second, because we're about to do it. I think they're about to do the song I wanted to do. Here we go. I can hear you. No, now I can. Yeah, okay, I can get it now. They're about to do the song I want to do, I think. If we can, yeah, if you don't mind. Is it Old Rugged Cross? I think it is Old Rugged Cross. How sweet. Okay, for you guys on Facebook, just hang with us because we're trying to double honor a couple of people today. We're honoring Michael Brown at our church, and then we're going to honor a man who has given, how many years in law enforcement and military have you served? Over 35?
In law enforcement, I've got a little over 30 years.
Okay.
The Marine Corps, it was 2 years active, 4 reserve, and 2 inactive.
Okay. So 38 years. 38 years of doing something for somebody else.
And those were combined. When I was on my reserve status, I was a deputy. And the inactive time, you don't drill, you're not, you're available if the Marine Corps calls you.
And if the Marine Corps called today, would you look at today's world and say, I want to be a part of the Marine Corps today? Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of guys who have gone over, who were reserve, and, you know, all of a sudden got called up, and they were like, yeah, we're ready. We're ready.
that's the thing with the Marine Corps is the heritage, the honor, the commitment to country. When I was 18, when I got to Parris Island, I saluted the flag. They make you salute the flag when you're there. As an 18-year-old.
Which reminds me, where's my flags? Our flags are always back here. We always have 2 flags. Oh, I feel like we're not dressed today. Wow, when you said that, wow.
And as an 18-year-old boy, that didn't mean a whole lot. You go through what Parris Island gives you in the Marine Corps.
Yes.
The day you graduate,
the flag means more.
The flag means a lot.
Yeah.
There wasn't a dry eye there.
Right.
So that honor and duty to country and to one another. A lot of people look at us a little different. I'm still willing to give my life if my country calls.
Absolutely. And we are going to get our flag back here because we always have our flag behind us. Thank you so much. That's a part of who I feel like America is today. And I was telling somebody last night, I don't buy a certain brand of shoes now because they have a man who kneels rather than stands, and he is their spokesperson. So I don't buy that shoe brand. And even if I see a really hot pair of my favorite pink and black shoes and it has that brand on it, I don't support it because they don't support my country. And I think that the reason I like interviewing guys with a military background is that's real. That's the real deal. You know, that's forever, and that is for a lifetime commitment. Now, we're going to come back in just a minute to ETC, so y'all hang out with us. They're finishing a song here at First Baptist Ball Ground. I hope you will come and visit us if you live in our area. If you don't live in the area, drive down one Sunday and have a Sunday service with us. Again, the church doors open about 10:45, and we start service at 11 o'clock. Jeff Brown has a little history of up here in these mountains, and he loves to go to Salem number 2, as I do, and I miss those days of getting to go to Salem number 2. But when you think about what America is going through today, we need to be back in church, because church will get us through this, and God will get us through this when everything else starts falling apart. We start praying, and then all of a sudden see things just change a little bit, and it comes back together, and you're like, wow, I made it through this, you know. Some really tough times, but he was there. So we're going to finish this song, and then we're going to come back here on ETC. Is it getting close? Yep. All right, y'all on Facebook. If you're out there in Facebook land, it looks like I'm going to have me a historical house for sale in Ball Ground, a 1905 fixer-upper. And y'all need to pick up the phone and call me, and I will give you all the information in the world, because it's a really great house. But it needs a good plumber, a good electrician, and a good heat and air man. But it is a great location, and it's about 2 minutes from where I live, so I might bring you a peach cobbler. Here we go. Okay. 2. We're back. Okay, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
My name's Kevin Johnson.
And you are, can we call you a local boy?
Yeah.
Fannin County?
Fannin County. I've been in Gilmer County roughly about 25 years. Grew up in Fannin County.
Yeah, it's so weird. I've been up here 48 years. But if you talk to my late mother-in-law, she'd say, yeah, she's from Atlanta. And I'm like, no, I've been up here 48 years. So I'm probably about as basic as you can get. Now, I love the military, and I love the background of the military, and I love our country, and I love this flag. And we usually have 2 flags behind us, and it's important to me to make sure that America is taken care of by those who have served in the military. And I always ask people, where did you start, and why did you become a Marine, and why did you do this? What really, you said earlier on the Facebook thing we were talking on that your dad was military. Did he influence you?
Oh, absolutely. He was Navy to the bone, 22 years. Retired.
My daddy had a Navy tattoo here when he was buried. I looked in the casket and said, yeah, it's still there.
He gave 22 years of service, and from all over. And we've traveled all over as kids, and been to different places. And funny fact, you could call a funny fact, my youngest sister was actually born in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, on the naval base.
Oh, wow.
So we were all there too as kids.
Do you remember Cuba?
Very little, but I do some. My mother has pictures, and she still pulls those pictures out, and we go over them often. So
that is so cool. And the only thing I remember about Cuba is they still show today that they drive around in old antique cars.
They do.
Really cool antique cars. Yeah. So, okay, you started out as a Marine. You chose the Marine rather than the Navy.
Yes.
A little bit of history with that.
The reason for going in the Marines, there's a few, but one of the bigger reasons for me, I wanted to test my mettle. I wanted to see if I could be a part of the Marine Corps is known as being the toughest that we have. So I wanted to test my mettle, and I had a cousin who also was the same age that wanted to do the same thing. So we went in together.
Did y'all kind of compete a little bit? Did you both excel? Did you do things kind of on equal?
Well, he's more like a brother to me. Compete, probably not. We went in on a buddy system. So we were at a lot of places, one just behind the other. And now his MOS, which is a military objective school, meaning his job, was different than mine. So after some of the basic training, which is boot camp and infantry training, and then we kind of went our different ways to specialize in the field that we were there to be in. His was Stinger missiles, which is a surface-to-air anti-aircraft missile, and mine was aircraft. My platform was Cobra helicopters, Cobra gunships.
Do you remember any female Cobra pilots?
No, during my time, there were very few females in the Marine Corps at all, but I don't remember ever running across any female pilots.
It's so interesting to see how the military and everything else in life has changed, because we are seeing anybody can pilot an aircraft today. You know, you might have a 5'2" pilot doing the plane that you're flying across country in today. It's a very different world.
It is.
Very different world. Now, as your military career, you get out of the military and then you decide to do what?
I wanted to get into law enforcement. So
why? Why would you want to put yourself out there and do that?
I think the drive for service. The Marine Corps really instilled that in me even more so. I was always proud of my dad and his brothers. My dad's oldest brother was a World War II veteran who served during the Battle of the Bulge and was badly wounded. He was a Bronze Star, a Silver Star, Purple Heart, under Patton's Third Army. He had to lay.
I love Patton. Yeah. Oh gosh, I love it.
He was wounded while they were overran and had to lay in the snow for 3 days, and that's what kept him alive. It froze him, basically.
Oh my goodness.
My dad's next brother was also in Europe during World War II. Both of them have been gone for a long time now. My dad was in during the Korean era, and his youngest brother was a Vietnam vet. All of those men are gone now, but they played a big role in my life. And
your dad's gone now?
Yes, he's been gone about 8 years now.
Wow. And as your career in being a police officer came here and there and everywhere, you started in Cherokee County. How did you end up with the Georgia State Patrol?
Well, the Georgia State Patrol was my initial goal. Back then, becoming a trooper was difficult. It was a hard job to get.
And it didn't pay well.
No.
I've seen the paychecks.
Still,
I know.
Still doesn't pay well.
No. It has to be a labor of love. It has to be a labor of love.
We had received a raise about 4 to 5 years ago. Before that, it was 10 years before we'd had a raise, and we were the lowest paid state police in the nation.
And you were losing good men because they would not ante up the money.
Lost a lot of good guys.
A lot of good guys. And you can't blame them because you couldn't support your family on what the GSP was paying.
No, generally you'd have to work 2 and 3 off-duty jobs, which I've done throughout my whole career.
Yeah, exactly. Now, to get to post commander in Blue Ridge, tell me the steps that you had to follow to do that.
Well, I've served at several posts as a what we refer to as a slick sleeve trooper, the regular patrolman level. And the process to get in that, the state has a system set up for promotions. And that system is you take a written exam. That written exam gets you to the next process. The next process is you go in front of a board of troopers from all over Southeast that are not from Georgia, so there's no biasness in that board.
Nobody knows you, yeah.
And you're given 2 scenarios. They give you a stack of papers of a post that's got all these problems. You've got to identify the problems, identify how you're going to correct them, and identify what you're going to do in the future to prevent those problems from reoccurring. You do that 2 different times, and then you do a 4-page essay, and then you're rated over all that, and you're put in tiers. There's a tier level 1, 2, and 3. To get promoted, you've got to get in tier level 1. So for corporal, the first time I assessed, I made tier level 2. You didn't get in there. The second time I assessed, I made tier level 1, got promoted, and was actually promoted at Blue Ridge. So I served there 2 years, reassessed, made in tier level 1, got promoted to sergeant, what we refer to as buck sergeant at Jasper. Stayed there in Jasper. They froze the hiring system and promotions due to budget cuts. So
I remember that time.
I was stuck there 5 years. We didn't promote anybody for 5 years. And then immediately after that, I went through the process again, got in tier level 1 and got promoted to the post commander of Blue Ridge. Had just gotten promoted to lieutenant, so that opened up for me, and got to come home. So that was a great thing.
And would you rather be, because my daddy was a beat cop in Atlanta, walking beat near the Capitol, off Memorial Drive. You know, that doesn't sound like fun. You get to do chases, you get to do all these things when you're in that blue car and you're out on the interstate and you're doing all that. Was your favorite part dealing with the people, or was your favorite part being over the post and being over the guys who are out there dealing with the people?
I think it's a love for both. Dealing with the people and trying to help people. Believe it or not, a lot of people think that our purpose is to actually go out there and purposely arrest and write tickets. That's not our purpose. Our purpose is to enforce the law and help the public. So I've always enjoyed that. The supervision part of it, fostering young troopers, young men, passing on knowledge and helping them through their everyday lives. These guys are human. They bring their lives to work with them just like everybody else.
And one of the things you and I talked about before we went on the air, I showed you a wreck that happened in Emerson yesterday, and a gentleman died and then 2 children were life flighted. You worked a fatality wreck, a horrific accident, drunk driving. I have a dear, dear friend whose only child was killed because of a drunk driver. That to me would be the part of your job you would love and hate at the same time, because you love bringing that drunk off the road and you hate having to show up at a door telling somebody they've lost their family because somebody was drunk.
It's awful. Those things stick in your mind forever.
And you take it home with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You take it home with you. Sometimes they visit you in your dreams. Sometimes you pass the sight on the road. They rip at you.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing, and especially if it's somebody you know, and I've had to do that.
Yeah, and a young trooper isn't prepared for that. You know, we were walking in Captain D's in Jasper, I think Saturday evening, and 3 troopers were coming out the door. 1 was an older gentleman, and then 2 were young, and you could tell they were probably just, getting in there. And I thought, y'all have no idea what you're gonna face, because I know the life of a trooper. I remember an accident in Roswell, and the 2 troopers who worked this said when they got there, it was a fatality, and it was the most horrific thing they'd ever seen. And both of them had issues dealing with that, because you don't forget it. You don't forget it.
It's hard to, and what we try and encourage those guys to do is to come talk to us. Let's get this out, because if you hold it in, it makes it worse. And we've got a program set up too for professionals to help. But now troopers are a lot like military. There's a lot of pride, and they tend to refuse that help. It's difficult, and I've seen death, as all of them will, in about every form you can imagine.
Right.
And making that visit to somebody's home, and the screams that you hear.
Oh yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. But you do it because you love it. Now, staying in as a trooper, doing what you did as a post commander, was there any part of that you would go back? Was there anything you would change? Could you see how you could better the way we treat our troopers?
Me personally, for me in my career, I wouldn't change a thing. The troopers, I would.
Except their pay. They needed an upgrade on pay, I'll tell you.
I would like to see our legislatures continue to work to help these guys get those pay raises and get those benefits. The benefits actually has gotten worse. When I come on, there was a pretty good retirement. There was a lot of legal benefits and insurance, and these guys now don't even have a retirement.
I remember, if I remember correctly, uniform, the cost of doing your uniforms came out of your pay, insurance came out of your pay. You did have a little bit of savings and whatever they call it, but there wasn't a whole lot left at the end of the month.
No, there's really not, and that's where a lot of us spend a lot of time working off duty. I've worked Falcons games. I've worked security details for dignitaries. I've worked at the Congress Center. I work now part-time for Northside Hospital. I'm their law enforcement coordinator, and I do threat assessments. I've worked for Wellstar Hospital doing those same things. So you're gone constantly. It's hard on a marriage.
Yeah, but you have to do what you have to do to pay your bills and to support your family. and then you don't want to give up a career that you absolutely love.
It's a love.
Yeah.
It's a love of service. There's no money in it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that love of service brings some difficult times for your family.
Sure it does. Now, the fun part of doing what you did, you got to do 2 inaugurations. One was really awesome with President Bush. One was not quite a picnic, and we're not going to talk about the one that wasn't a picnic. We'll talk about the one with Bush. Tell me a little bit about being a part of that detail.
It was an honor to get picked. The state sent 25 troopers. They were handpicked by the colonel.
And does every state do that? How does that work?
Not every state. The federal government picks the states that they want to do that. And how that process is done, I don't know. Most of them, believe it or not, are from the southeast. Not all, but most.
It's because we know you're going to get up there and be nice to folks. Because that's what Southerners do.
So we were chosen, and we were flown down there. And the Bush, his administration was very kind to us. We were given tours of D.C. We were sworn in.
Had you ever been to D.C. before
Had never
this?
been there.
Wow. Were you in awe of all the things you got to see?
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. We were all also sworn in as U.S. Marshals, so we had arrest powers. So I've been a U.S. Marshal twice for 4 days each time. So, but we stood on line, the parade route from the White House to the Capitol, and basically just to make sure.
In your GSP uniforms?
Yes.
Okay.
And we stood on line by, there's a lot of states, Texas, South Carolina, North Carolina, New Hampshire, all kinds of, I don't think we had anybody from California. Tennessee troopers were there. So we also got to converse with other states, which is always that there's a deep brotherhood in state troopers. So that was real interesting too.
And if there had been an active shooter at an inaugural scene, were you prepared to deal with that?
Yes, ma'am. We're just like we're trained every day. We would actively seek out that active shooter and aggressively neutralize that shooter if need be.
Well, when we look back on the day in history that none of us ever forgot, the assassination of John Kennedy. You know, there were troopers walking alongside, there were Secret Service guys walking alongside that car. Any of them would have laid down their life for the President of the United States. And that's what y'all are prepared to do.
We gave an oath to do that. And you have to understand that going into it.
Right.
You have to wrap your mind around there may be a time that you might have to give your life for somebody else.
That's crazy. You know, it's crazy, but what an honor. What a neat honor. Now, do you have any keepsakes from that day, that event? I
do. We were given a set of badges, commemorative badges, that's got U.S. Marshal information on it. It's displays. And I bought my kids a few things from D.C.
I bet you did.
They were younger then. They're grown now, and they still have those keepsakes. So it was a great time.
Yeah, that is so cool. Now, when you look back at your career, are you old enough to retire now?
I retired in December.
Okay. So why are you ready to go back to work again at a new job? Why are you interested in doing this?
Well, I've had some fellow troopers ask me the same thing after a career with the state
How many miles
troops.
do you think you've driven the roads of Georgia as a trooper?
I've been all over the state. We have driven in a day from Blue Ridge to Savannah, stood on line for civil disturbance, and then drove right back. I've been at the GH Summit. I've been in Atlanta many times during civil unrest and places throughout the state for natural disasters.
Why don't you just want to retire?
Well, a lot of my friends have asked me the same thing, and for a month or two it was okay, but I still have a will to want to serve. I still have a drive to want to be a part of it, and the judicial system has always been a love for me.
Well, I had to go recently to a hearing in Pickens County, a probate judge hearing. And I looked up and I knew the kid who was our judge. And I watched him grow up and I thought, oh, I didn't know he was our probate judge, you know. And it was interesting to me because I didn't really realize that a probate, a magistrate, it's a whole new ball game, and it is a civil part of our government. Is that what you'll be looking to do?
The magistrate's office, you're dealing with criminal, and the criminal part of it is arrest warrants and search warrants. And
Which you have some experience?
Yes. I did a lot of work with drug interdiction teams. when the Zell Miller Drug Task Force was formed here, Roger Queen, who was the district attorney, made me.
Love Roger.
Me too. He made me the first board member.
Love him.
So we did a lot of search warrants, arrest warrants, and not just drafting them, but executing them. And the civil side of the magistrate court, I've been involved with a lot of civil cases. Generally, those are wrecks where people are, lawsuits are involved. So I know the process with the civil system and the civil courts, and have testified many times in those too. So.
Well, I told you this, and it really still blows my mind. My daddy had a law degree, but he never practiced law in his life. He had several degrees that he never used because he just didn't find that career he wanted to do. But you, in order to be this magistrate judge, you don't have to have a law degree. And we're going to take a commercial break now. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about that and what did prepare you for this job. So we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Okay, for you guys who are joining us on Facebook, we are, my phone's about to go dead. It's down to low battery, so I hope we get in this whole interview. Maybe we will. I bought myself a phone charger, but I have two little dual things in the car. Plugged it in this one today and realized on the way up here that little sucker wasn't charging, but this one would have. So I learned me a lesson, so I hope that our phone goes all the way through the interview today because I'd love for y'all to do it. It will re-air tonight at 6 o'clock on ETC and then again at 1 a.m. So if you have friends and neighbors who are looking to find out what's going on in the community and that there is a runoff election tomorrow, have you voted yet?
Yes, ma'am.
Who'd you vote for?
Me.
That's funny. Oh, Lordy. You know, I had said, I think Congress, and this is my opinion and my opinion only, I think Congress should be loaded with people with military backgrounds. I think that you learn to do it right. You execute what you start, you finish the product. That's what the military does. And we see Congress sitting up there finishing nothing. All they do is bellyache and argue and complain. And I said, I could never run for Congress because I'm not qualified, but I would love to see nothing but military up there doing it, because they know how to start and finish a job. And that's something we're missing in our government. We are missing it.
I agree, and the military guys are trained to work together.
Absolutely.
They're not going to fight against each other. They're going to work together.
Yeah, and that's what it takes. I mean, you look at things that you might not agree on. My best friend and I are as opposite as night and day. But at the end of the day, we accomplish everything we set out to do, because we know it's for the good of this and the good of this, and you know, and it just, that's the way life is. You work together to make it happen. And we're not seeing that in Congress. And it drives me crazy, because I'm like, you know how Elvis used to get accused of shooting the TV? Sometimes I see what's going on TV and I just want to throw my shoe at it. You know?
I'm with you.
It's crazy because we're not accomplishing what we have the ability to accomplish because of bickering and bellyaching and arguing. And I would think a magistrate judge sees a lot of that, a lot of bickering, bellyaching, and arguing that can just be solved. Let's solve it, and let's dissolve it, and let's get it done.
I agree. The business of the country, the business of protecting the Constitution and serving the people should come first.
Absolutely.
What we've got now in politics is individual wants and needs instead of the public.
High-paid individual wants and needs. We've seen people go in with little or no experience and little or no common sense and be in there 30 years drawing these huge salaries, accomplishing nothing. And I said, that's what I always vote. I've never missed voting in an election since I was old enough to vote. But my thing is, I'm going to keep you working if you earn my vote. But I'm not going to vote for you just because whatever. You're going to have to earn that vote. The first time around, I'll give you a pass. The second time around, you better be doing your job. And I think that's where we're goofing up. I think that we continue to send people to Congress who don't have the ability to do jack squat. I wouldn't let them walk my cat. You know, I mean, come on. I'm like, are you people kidding? We are paying these people to sit up there and bellyache and argue and complain. And that's what they do.
We have, a lot of them have forgotten the purpose and who put them up there and why they're there. And again, it's the business of this country and the business of the people. Instead of trying to ridicule and destroy, they need to work together. And just like you said, you're talking about your friends. I've got friends that we have different beliefs, but
Sure.
when it comes time to be friends and work together, we're going to work
We're
together.
gonna do it.
And that's what we need.
Okay, we're
now.
coming back. 4, 3, 2, 1. We're back. We're back. Okay. All right. I whine and complain and gripe about people who don't do their job. I think that if you're elected, the first time we elect you because we believe your platform and we think you have a great idea and a great concept, the next time you better be doing your job and you better be doing it well. If you know, number one, people could retire, you don't want to retire, you want to continue in public service. When you walk into a job as a magistrate judge, as a probate judge, as whatever, what are your goals and what are you looking at?
Well, the number one goal is to uphold people's constitutional rights and protect those rights.
And in America, we're sadly
losing
giving them up. Yeah, willingly giving them up. It's stupidity.
And
so.
Judges' positions are very important. That's a very important role when it comes to constitutional rights and the protection of those rights.
Mm-hmm. And if somebody walks in and you're talking civil or criminal, how detailed? And are there limits that magistrate judge handles? Is it $15,000?
It is, in the civil end, it's $15,000 or less. In the majority of those cases, it will come in that civil court will be contractual, the majority.
Mm-hmm. And what about the criminal? What's the aspect of that?
The criminal of that is arrest warrants, and that is the majority of that is law enforcement. However, civilians can come in there and they can take arrest warrants too. But for a civilian person, they have to have probable cause hearing, so that the judge looks at what has went on basically from a report from the sheriff's office and gets statements from both sides, and then that magistrate judge determines if there's enough probable cause for that warrant. And then a lot of people will say, well, what's probable cause? Probable cause is a detailed articulation of statutory law. Statutory law is built by the elements within that law. So all those elements must be present, articulated with probable cause for it to be a valid arrest warrant.
Because you can't just say, well, my neighbor's dog did so-and-so in my yard and I want him locked up. You can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
A lot of common sense comes into this.
Common sense, and of course, being experienced in with that. Being experienced with the law, the elements of the law, what it's made of. And search warrants is very similar. Search warrants deals with your Fourth Amendment rights, protection against search and seizures. And we've recently seen a couple in St. Louis.
Oh my gosh.
Who had their
Oh
guns.
my gosh, I want to go out there and help those people.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
They had their weapons or guns taken away, and that had to have been issued by a magistrate judge. Issuing a warrant that is unconstitutional creates many problems.
Oh yeah.
Not only have you violated somebody's civil rights, you've put that municipality, county, whatever, at risk for being sued. So that hurts the taxpayers. But what's important in a search warrant is what we call as a curtilage, or the area to be searched, and of course probable cause and detailed articulation. And one thing that is very, very important in no-knock search warrants is something very simple, and that's the address. In a no-knock search warrant, and we've seen this throughout the
I've seen
news,
it happen.
where law enforcement has showed up at the wrong place
door.
and a gunfight occurs.
Kill somebody.
So if I'm elected, that's one thing that the way that I'll handle those is that to check and make sure that address is correct, and they're going to also have to provide me with a Google layout map of where they're going and when they're going. No-knock search warrants are very dangerous, and law enforcement uses that for various reasons. Some could be a convicted felon that's a danger to them. It could be that evidence is at risk of being destroyed. And it is simply just trying to execute that warrant in a safe manner against somebody who is dangerous. So there's different variations of that.
And you know, for a person to be involved, if a neighbor sees X amount of cars going to another neighbor's house at weird times of day and night, then you might think that person is a drug dealer. And you might report it to so-and-so and so-and-so. And then you get gossip started. And there's nothing that's the truth until you really investigate. So just because people are coming and going, there have been people who were trying to be arrested for drug dealers and they weren't. And then there were drug dealers that were right under somebody's nose that were smarter. How do you choose what's the real deal?
Well, generally, when people start that information process, then it's investigated by law enforcement. And law enforcement builds a platform for probable cause. That platform might be through a confidential informant, and it might be through surveillance, and it might be through statements or a combination thereof. And when those are compiled, they feel they have enough information for a search warrant. Then that's brought before the magistrate judge. He reviews that probable cause to see if, in fact, they do or they do not have enough probable cause. And there's been situations where I've seen a magistrate judge say, "You're close, but you're not quite there. Go back and keep doing your surveillance and keep."
You don't want to blow the deal.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to blow the deal.
You don't want to blow the deal, but you also want to make sure that you're within your constitutional boundaries of the individuals and law enforcement that are. It's being the judge is like being a referee in a football game. You've got to be fair to both sides.
Right.
And if you weigh heavy to the left or the right, there can be some problems with that. For the law enforcement side, that problem would be that you've got a soft foundation for a case that you'll probably lose. For the civilian side, this is really the worrisome part, is that you violated somebody's constitutional rights because you failed to make sure that enough probable cause existed for that search warrant to be executed.
Right, right. Now, in your career, you've seen probably any and everything. Have you seen cases that you went to trial and you were like, man, we had everything, and a jury trial and the jury didn't go the way it should have gone?
Yes, in this line of work, you win some, you lose some, and jury trials are difficult. Most defense attorneys... It's
emotional, isn't it?
Oh, it is very emotional, and it's very draining, and it depends on, of course, the charge and the trial itself. And defense attorneys, their job is to add as much unclarity to it as possible, which puts doubt in the mind of jurors, members. And the prosecuting side and the law enforcement side is to prevent as solid as a case as they can to give the jurors the information they need to make a good decision. And of course, on the prosecuting side, they're looking for that conviction, and the defense side, they're looking for trying to help their client in their aspect, which is part of our constitutional rights in the law. So it's a good thing.
And you know, as sad as it is, even somebody who's guilty has the right to defense. You know, they have the right to defense even though the attorney going in knows that they're guilty. Now, in the magistrate setting, one person, the one person, would make the decision based on the knowledge, the common sense, and do you have a gut feeling about things?
Well, I think we all have gut feelings, but the law's pretty strict in the boundaries, and in magistrate judges, they don't.
So you might have to rule something you didn't like because this is the law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're heavily guided within what you can do with the law. And a magistrate judge doesn't hear criminal cases. The cases that they would hear would be civil cases, and they do bond hearings and bond conditions, those sorts of things. Now, the probate judge, he tends to hear more of the misdemeanor criminal cases. A magistrate judge can and often will hear cases related to county ordinances, though, and those are smaller misdemeanor violations. But how you feel, you want to be compassionate with folks, and you want to help folks as much as you can, and there is some maneuvering room for that. There is some maneuvering room for good, sound judgment. But there's also those out of bounds markers that says, all right, judge, this is as far as you can go. Right. No matter what you think, the law and the court systems and the chief superior court judge who runs this circuit says this is as far as you can go. Right,
right. And as that magistrate judge, who do you work under? Who do you answer to besides the people who are going to vote for you?
The chief superior court circuit judge who here is Brenda Williams.
And at any point in time, do you know of a time that a superior court judge said, no, that was the wrong call? What were you thinking?
Well, not necessarily, but if you go to the magistrate judge's office, whether it be civil or criminal, and you want to appeal that, you can, and that's a good thing in the judicial process. It's appealed, and it's appealed to the superior court circuit. So that's usually how that is voiced, if an individual felt like that they were ruled on incorrectly, they can appeal that to the superior court circuit.
And what is it? 2-year, 4-year term? What's the term?
It's a 4-year term.
4-year term. Okay. 4 years into this, you look back at your career. You've had a long career. 4 years. Do you believe that you would want to run again and again and again, or how do you feel about people who get in a position and stay there forever?
I think that should be up to the public. If the public wants me to, I will.
Depending on how you do your job.
It is, and I do believe in limited terms. I don't think it's good for an individual to stay in there for a long period of time. And as we've seen throughout our public officials, a lot of them gain power and they lose sight of what they were put there before. So if the public sees fit to put me in there, it will be at their whim. If they decide that if I'm in there that there won't be another 4 terms, then I will, and then we'll make a decision from there. But my goal is not to be there forever. My goal is to allow Gilmer County to have that option, that they can make those choices. And I think we constantly need a refreshment of folks in office.
I was sitting this weekend thinking about the people that I have known for, they used to be ordinaries. You know, when I first came to Jasper, the ordinary was, he issued marriage licenses and did all kinds of things like that, and that was Wheeler Hammondtree. He had been in there for 100 years. And then there's another one that came in, was there a long time, and then Rodney Gibson was there a long, long time, 30 some odd years. And when you look at that career, you know, I think 12 years, and let's refresh a little bit. Let's not stick there. But now that you've done everything you've done in your life, you have all this experience. You're going to bring this experience to the table as a judge. Tell me exactly what you think you can bring that makes a difference in you being in that position.
Well, the experience in the application of law, applying the law is
because it's not just your opinion.
Right. It's the guidelines of the law and what the law says. And applying the law can be a very tough thing. If you've got 2 individuals in front of you, somebody's going to walk away upset. So applying the law is a difficult thing, but it's an important thing. And I'm a constitutionalist in every sense of the word. So applying that law and upholding those constitutions, upholding those laws and individual rights is important, and that comes through experience. An example in law enforcement, you start from a neutral position on a traffic stop, let's say. You see a violation, that's called probable cause, and you make that stop. Then you've got to investigate a little further, and then you've got to make a decision. Do I write a warning? Do I write a ticket? Is there enough probable cause to make an arrest? Is there something beyond this initial stop that I need to know about? All those decisions, that has to come from neutral. Or did I stop this person and everything's fine and we cut them loose and send them on the way? So a judge is the same way. He starts from neutral based on evidence presented to him or her. He's got to make those decisions from that point to the end point of where we are when the hearing's over with.
Now, as a career law enforcement, you've been out there, you've seen it all, you've done it all. Working in a small county, you're going to know a lot of the people who might come before you. How do you deal with that?
Well, that's a tough thing, and I've had to deal with that throughout my career. Again, compassion.
Yeah, if you stopped me, I'd look up and say, I fed you a free meal. No.
Compassion's important, and we want to instill compassion, but we also, it's very important that we uphold the law and the constitutional rights, no matter who's in front of you.
Yeah. And that is a tough one. That is a very, very tough one.
I've had the very same thing happen to me on the road. My wife and I was in Jasper. We'd been eating. We finished lunch. She pulls out in front of somebody. She fails to yield.
Oh, no.
Normally, we don't work a wreck on family members because of conflict of interest, but I was the only trooper.
Oh, no.
In 4 counties, so I had to work a wreck on my wife.
Oh, no.
And I had to cite her for failing to yield.
Oh, my.
And she was a little upset, and it was hard to explain. And I said, here's the thing.
As you're seeing your insurance go up a little bit because she's going to be charged.
Today, and I told her today, right now, I'm not your husband, I'm a Georgia State Trooper, and I'm representing the law. And if I don't represent the law fairly, the other end, the victim in this, would have been unjustly, it would have been handled wrong.
Right.
And policy calls for us to handle the law exactly the way it is. So
that's a case I would want to be involved in.
It was awful. It was an awful situation.
Yeah.
And I love my wife very much. But, you know, to be fair, to be that person, you're paying me, you're expecting me to uphold the law,
right.
No matter who's in front of me. And it's the same as a judge. If those people come in front of me, no matter who they are, I have to be fair. I took an oath to be fair. I have to uphold those constitutional rights, and I have to uphold the law.
Wow. I don't know why anybody who already had all these careers is so excited about doing this again, but I see that your heart's in this. Now, how's this going to affect your family? Tell me a little bit about your family.
My wife is behind me. My children are behind me. They're grown now and on their own. The political end of it has been kind of tough. Politics is, for a judge, it's so different. When you're running for office, you of course have to be involved in the political end of it to get elected. Once you're elected, those judges' canons tighten up on you, which are laws that rates the judges, and you have to become bipartisan. You have to be fair and equal. So you tend to kind of step out of the political side of it to represent, that robe. That robe represents a cloaking of the law. It represents fair neutrality. So you have to step away from that. But the family, my wife, she said, whatever you want to do, I'm behind you. But she said, after all this time, I don't know why you want to do this.
I know.
So
I know.
It's it's a love.
But if you love what you're doing, yeah,
it's a love.
And you love the public service.
I do.
That's it. That's it. Now, your children, when they look at you, did they follow in your career? Anybody in law enforcement?
I tried actually to steer my kids away from that. My son, he is 25 now, have to think a little bit, and my daughter's 27. I never let them in that patrol car. I never let them play with blue lights. And my son and my daughter both was active in sports and dance and piano, and I missed a ton of that. And my son, one time when he was little, was talking to me, and he was very upset, and he said, "Daddy, why can't you coach like the other daddies?" And I said, "Because our job is different. We're there. We're on the road at night. We're on the road at the weekends.
Right.
So you can be there to play ball. So these other kids can safely be there to play ball." So that point in his life, he decided that he didn't want to go through that. Well, he works now for TVA. A nuclear power plant.
I mean, he's got a great job.
He does.
He's got a great job.
In Chattanooga, and he loves it. He lives here, but he commutes back and forth. My daughter lives in Marietta now. She graduated from Kennesaw State. She's in marketing and works for Cobb Galleria. So I couldn't ask for any two better kids. I have two stepsons, one who just recently joined the Air Force. He's in South Carolina.
Oh, I was going to say, did he go to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas?
He did.
Yeah.
He works on C-17, so he's doing great. And the other one is 16. He's still in high school. Good young man, gets good grades. So I'm blessed all the way around.
Lucky and blessed life, and now you want to continue to give back. Looking at where we've been and where we're going in America, we have a time in America that things aren't normal. Things aren't feeling good. There's not people aren't working together, and that's really, really hard. And I think it has to start at the bottom and go up, and it has to be, we have to teach these kids at home to respect our law enforcement. And I think when I look around, I know troopers who lost their life on the road. I know troopers who retired and had to work another job because your retirement doesn't pay enough for you to really live on. I know troopers who really gave it all and still want to give, and I think that's so very important because that is a life that goes on forever, and it's public service.
It is. It becomes who you are. That never leaves you. And it is a lot of the guys that make it to retire, the average lifespan of somebody in law enforcement is 55 years old. And it's usually a heart attack because of the stress that they've built throughout their life. So
I was going to ask you, do you know Frank Wright?
I sure do.
Do you know Frank Cathy? Do you remember Frank Cathy?
I do.
Frank Cathy stopped me one night on Dunbean Hill in a 66 Chevelle, and I might have been speeding. I might have been really speeding. But I ended up married to one of the guys that was with him when he stopped me. So it was okay. It was okay. But I remember those nights of late nights and horrific stories about accidents. And I remember, and it does affect you forever. You think about the family and you wonder what happened to those kids because their dad was killed in an accident. And a lot of troopers have had to deal with a lot of stuff, but they do it because their heart's there. They do it because their heart's there.
I was with the State's Honor Guard for several years, and I've carried many. This is hard. I've carried many to their grave.
I remember, and I'm trying to think, was his name Robbie that was killed over in Calhoun? And they did the procession. I drove over there and was at the interstate as all the cars went by with the flags, and he was like 28 years old and he was killed. And I remember how the police officers who went back to work the next day had to deal with the loss of their friend's life. He was just doing his job. He was just at work. He was just doing his job.
It's difficult, and folding those flags over those coffins, handing them to their wives and their kids. I wished a lot of people could see that.
Oh yeah.
I wished a lot of people could see the sacrifices that these guys, Christmas Day, these guys are out here on the road.
Sure. Yeah.
Christmas night, we've worked fatalities. I have on Christmas Day.
Oh yeah.
That eats you, but it's really who you are and your love of your country and your community. Why would somebody do that? That's a very good question. Where do we find these people?
It's hard.
It is, and I can't tell you other than we have a calling, and most of us believe firmly of God's calling to serve.
Well, anytime I see anybody running for political office, I'm like, oh no, they're going to dig up everything about you. Oh no. And then you find out these are just good, genuine people who want to put themselves out there and see if they get the job. And when you get in there, then you do a great job, or you don't get in there, then you handle it and you move on with life. But it is truly one of those things when you look at, you've put yourself out there, and now tomorrow's the day. If you lose the election tomorrow, you go on with life. And you're we're in communities that everybody knows everybody. So you're just nice to folks no matter how it turns out. I told you, I think that my husband lost by 9 votes one time. And he was so cool about it, and he was just, everything worked out fine. And he handled it correctly, and I said, that's the way you do life. Life is what it is, and I want to wish you the best, because you never know. You never know how the election's going to go, but good luck tomorrow.
I think it's important that God's will be done, and His will be done, and if it's His will that I win, and I'll go to work for the people as hard as I can, and if
That's
it's
right.
not, then He has another direction for
That's
me to go
exactly
in.
right.
And I'm smiling either way.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thank you
for being a part of our ETC family, because we do cover from Ball Ground to Turtletown, and it's 12 o'clock, and it's time for us to get out of here. Bye, y'all. Okay, if y'all are with us still on Facebook, I'm so glad it's still running. We have got an election tomorrow that is so very important in the counties we serve. From Cherokee County up to Turtletown, there are all kinds of things happening. Get out and vote. Encourage your neighbors to vote. Don't sit at home and say, I can't make a difference. You can, and your vote can make a difference. Don't forget, tonight will be rebroadcast at 6 o'clock. So again, at 6 o'clock and at 1 a.m. We'll see you again soon. Bye, y'all.